Hello, welcome. It is Hump Day, Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. Welcome, Petty Deb. You are number one. And Frankie, you're number two. Thank you both for showing up. And both are super fans. Thank you very much. And Frankie tells Deb that she beat you. So, all right, we're gonna get started here. Let me stop this music. Okay, so today we are going to talk about holding one child back because of another, and I want to be clear on what I'm talking about. One of your children is a talented singer, and the agent only wants him or her. Do you say either all or none? Do you prevent one child from excelling because the others do not? Is it fair? Welcome, Grit Talk. First of all, can everyone hear me? We were having a little sound problems yesterday. Okay, good. All right. So, um, okay. So to be clear, this is where I'm coming from. I had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me how um, her two brothers, one of them was a good football player, the other one was average, and the coach treated the one that was average, didn't treat him very well. Um, so the mother went up and basically said, if you don't treat, this particular child, you know, with respect and what have you, then both of them are going to have to, you know, quit the team. So the uh, coach started treating the other son that was just average better, and they stayed on the team. So as we were talking, I said, "So, did you have one of those households where um, it was all or none, where you take one, you can't take the other. This person can't do something without the other." And for the most part, she said yes. So I disagreed with her, and we were kind of went back and forth, whatever. But I mean, that's how she was raised. I mean, she was raised in that type of household. So I go to welcome Balram and welcome Mysam. So I go to other uh, situations where you have the same thing. And excuse me, welcome KTWU. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, so I'm just going to use the letters. So I go to other places where you look at the Jackson Five. Did Barry Gordy just want Michael? Did Joe Jackson say it's either all or none? You look at Tony Braxton and her sisters. They only wanted Tony. Her mother said all or none. And in that dynamic, it fostered jealousy within their family. So, do you prevent one child from excelling because the other one is not as good as that other one in that particular field? I mean, maybe your singing ability is not that great, but maybe you have talent some in some other area. What about those parents who say, take your younger sister, with you, take your brother with you. What do you do? I mean, is that fair? I remember I grew up with a friend of mine, a childhood a childhood friend. We went through school together, and after all these years, we're still friends. And she was the oldest of three. She was 3 years older than the middle sibling and 4 years older than the youngest one. And whenever she had birthdays or Christmas or anything like that, her parents always made her share her things with her two youngest siblings, which I thought was just crazy. And other people, were like, seriously, you have to do that? So when she brought that up to her parents, and they told her, well, they're younger than you, you should share, and she says, well, you don't tell them to share with me. And her parents said, well, they're younger than you. I'm pretty sure the things that they have, you don't want to play with their toys. And I thought that was kind of, it was hypocritical. But I do know that for this particular person, it has ruined her relationship with her siblings to the point where she got a job and she was going to move out the house. Her mom didn't want her to move because she says, no, you need to stay here and help your other siblings, even though they had jobs, whatever, to the point where one sibling would always come to her and say, well, you need to give me some money because mom said or dad said you need to help me. And she ended up moving. And she, for a long time, she never went back home for Christmas or Thanksgiving or birthdays or anything like that. And even now, even though her parents are still living, and her siblings, she doesn't talk to them. And I blame her parents. So having said all of that, I'm going to open it up. If anyone wants to add anything, you're more than welcome to come on, because I really want to know, do you hinder one child because of another? When that child, or I'm sorry, when the younger child gets older and you're allowing them to do things, well, they were never prevented from doing anything, but their older sibling was. So what do you do? Welcome, F1. Do you have a comment you would like to share?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Good.
Um, yeah, I think it's wrong that you know one child has to get well has is forced to share, and the younger ones aren't. I mean, my kids, we taught them, well, we teach them to share, but if the other child wants to, let's say, for instance, their toys, if they want to play with something that they've got, they need to ask, and if the other child doesn't agree to it, then the answer is no. um, so there's that choice that they have. We don't force it upon them, but we do encourage them to share. And we try and encourage them to be more like that. To share whatever you've got. And but if it's not yours, you need to ask, and if it's okay, then it's okay. If it's not, then you have to accept that.
Well, okay, so you brought up a good point. So when you're talking about sharing, should we necessarily teach our children to share? I mean, is sharing, I mean, yes, we should, but you know, growing up, you hear you should share, you should share, you should share. But is it wrong not to share? If you don't share, are you considered, well, you're just stingy, she doesn't want to share, or he doesn't want to share. Is it necessarily bad that you don't share?
No, I don't think it's bad. It's yeah. I don't know. We just it's always good to share what you have. Um, but it's not something that you should force upon someone. It should be a choice. Um, yeah, I don't think it makes you stingy if you don't want to share. Some things that you want to keep it yours, and some stuff you don't mind sharing. So I think it's up to the person that 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 holds that thing that the other one wants. If it's up to them and it's okay, then they can share. If not, then the other one needs to understand.
Okay. Well, let me ask this. May I ask how many children you have?
Yeah, sure. I've got two kids,
Okay.
9 and 14, and there are some things like my son's, let's say, his Nerf guns. The, some of the guns he'll share with his sister, and there's one or two that are his favorite, and no one's allowed to touch them. That kind of thing. So yeah, that they still get along very well. They still they play together, even though the sister's not allowed to play with one of the others. They still she accepts the ones that she can play with, and they get along just fine.
Okay. All right. So your son is older than your daughter.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So let's say they were, you know, um, they were singing. Okay. And they did very well, and they caught the attention of someone, and they came out to listen to them. But let's say they only wanted your daughter and not your son. Would you allow your daughter to pursue that, or would you say either take them both, or neither?
No, I mean, I don't stand for that. If the one is more talented than the other one in a certain field, then I don't believe holding the one back. That's just not right. Everyone has their certain talents in something, and if singing is not for my son, he'll find his talent somewhere else. I don't believe it's right to hold the one that has the talent back because the other one hasn't. Maybe his passion is probably not in it as much as his sister, and it's I don't believe he should hold her back because he's not as talented as her. That's not right.
Okay. All right. So, in terms of going back to siblings, and they play well together, do you ever um, tell your son that if he wants to go somewhere, take your sister with you?
Um, well, we haven't ever done, because we're still quite new in this country, so we haven't got to that scenario where we let our kids go somewhere without us. So
Okay.
we haven't really had that scenario. Um, but I wouldn't enforce that. That was actually enforced on us, on myself, when we were growing up. We were four brothers, and my mom actually used to tell us that if we want to go, like, maybe to one of our friends, we must take our younger brother with. And sometimes you don't you don't want to, you want to hang out with kids your own age, and you don't want to have your siblings tailing along with you. But we haven't I haven't done that with my kids. I don't think I will. I know how it felt when, for us growing up, it's not very nice. Sometimes you want to get away. But as far as my kids go, I haven't ever done that with them. But then again, we haven't let them go off somewhere alone, where we had to say to the one, take the other one with. Like, my daughter goes and has play days with her friends, and her brother definitely doesn't want to go with her to her girlfriends to go and play whatever, roller skates or singing, or anything like that.
So, do you think that with siblings, like for my sister and I, we're 2.5 years apart, and she's the oldest one, and or the eldest, whatever. Do you think that it will ever get to a point where, if you continuously tell a child, take the youngest one with you, take the youngest one, with you, that when they get older, they will resent each other?
Well, in my situation, it didn't. Us four brothers were pretty close. Even though some points, we didn't enjoy having to drag the younger ones with us. But I mean, for us, we all still remain pretty close.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Welcome, chill. So your F1, your children, they're what, 5 years apart?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So do you think that you would ever get to the point where your son is 16, 17 years old, and he wants to go out to a party, or he wants to go hang out with his friends, but he can't because you're telling him, well, you can't go because you have to stay at home with your sister. Do you think that that's fair, or do you think a parent should stay home or even get a babysitter?
Uh, yeah, I don't. I think it's the parents' responsibility to look after their kids, and not. I know some people that have like 3 or 4 kids, and they pass a lot of the responsibility of looking after them on their kids, which I don't feel it's right. Your kids, certain age, they need to be doing things um, that for kids that age, and I don't feel it's right to pass that responsibility on to your older siblings because let's say you need a break or you're tired or you want to go out and your child can't go out because you want to go. I don't think it's right. I think that responsibility lies on you, and your older child needs to be doing normal stuff that other kids their age are doing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Chill. Welcome to the conversation. We're pretty much talking about letting one child do something. Not, I'm sorry, not allowing one child to do something because of another. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Uh, hey everybody. First of all, I'm sorry. Hello everyone.
Hello, Chill.
I know we always try to get straight to the point, but I'm gonna say hi.
I know.
And I, in reference to this issue, this is a big thing in my household, and well, just in my community in general. Growing up, that was just how it went. Typically, right? You can't do nothing. If your brother, little brother, can't go, you can't go. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a fair thing. It's not taken out of context. It's just all right. Well, you want to do all of what you want to do, but what about your brother? You gonna leave your brother here at home by himself? Mama got to work. Somebody got to be here. You know what I'm saying? So mama can't afford daycare. So big brother gotta watch little brother. That's just how I go. Suck it up. It can build a resentment. Of course it can, but after you get older, you still got resentment toward your brother because you had to watch it when you were little. Something you need more help than your little brother or your parent at that point. You should need to
Okay,
sit
but
down with somebody.
all right, but what about something that F1 said, that that a child needs to be a child. I mean, they still, I mean, if you're spending your entire time as the oldest or one of the oldest, and you're constantly watching your children, I mean, your siblings, when do you get to be a kid or a teenager? Because when they get older, they're going to be able to experience the things that you weren't able to because they were watching you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. It's not like it's all. My point is that it's not normally when it's like that. It's for a reason, right?
No,
Like I
I
said.
I understand that. I
So
understand that.
me personally, had to happen to me a lot. I mean, or my sisters a lot. It did that. First of all, it's not like my parents were super unreasonable. They can go and do some things, but a lot of times I couldn't go. Like, would you go? What about your brother? Would you? It's like the consideration as well. Like, why you ain't? They're teaching you a lesson in that. Like, how you gonna just leave that? And what about your brother? What he gonna do? You think about that? You leave him by himself? No, you stay here with, stay with him. You don't leave your brother out. And they know if you have an issue with that, and that's why. I mean, typically, if you have a decent parent, it's a reason why they're telling you that. You know, and you can have resentment all you want. You can not like it all you want. Situations are bestowed amongst people just because of the situation. There's nothing. There's no one's fault that mama got to work 2 jobs because daddy left. You know what I'm saying? Or no, It's just, it ain't her fault. You still got to do what you got to do. Who gonna watch the baby? I can't afford daycare. Daycare costs $4-5 a week. I be working to pay daycare, and that's the case. So yeah, go ahead, have your fun. We don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that luxury. Fun is that it's the life of. We don't have that. We don't have that. Who's to say when it's too early to grow up and when not? You know what I'm saying? You can't. There's no gauge. Like I know people that was their thing. Like, man, I want you to be a child. How long? When is the line cut off though? When you got to be a child or not be a child. Like if is it 16, is it 14? You got to start teaching kids some responsibility. And typically the older sibling is going to be that person. Then you just going to eat, sleep, and poop all day and have fun. You think that's what the big kid means? No, you gonna have to learn some responsibility at the same time. I ain't maybe not all the responsibility, but you gonna have to learn. You gonna have to learn, and that's just how the world is. It's not a bad thing. It Hey, when you get older, you realize that, well, I was prepared for more. I was prepared. You know what I'm saying? You looking at your baby brother running around, still acting like a little baby, because he was treated like a little baby. And he the one ain't got no acting like he ain't got no sense a lot of times because they just spoiled. So it's just there's vices and virtues to it, but I, I don't think that's a bad thing. A lot of people are in their situations due to maybe the mistakes they made, but I wouldn't be mad at my mama or my brother. That's just silly for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not about to do that. I'm not. I mean, you might have some resentment because of something they did, the way they used to treat you when they was little. But I mean, just because I had to stay home with them and watch them, at the end of the moment, you be pissed. But come on, you gotta get over that.
So, Chill, I
Oh,
understand what I understand what you're saying. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Grit. You have a question for Chill.
yeah, sorry. I just wanted to ask Chill. I get what you're saying with the responsibility. The older child needs to learn responsibility. But what now if the older child staying at home watching the younger one, and he's got to learn responsibility when the younger child gets older and he doesn't need a babysitter. How's he going to learn that responsibility that the older, because now you're obviously teaching your older child responsibility. How's the younger child going to learn that same kind of responsibility if he's the the younger child? There's no one after him. um, he's going to grow up to the age of where the older one was when he was looking after the younger one. Where's his teaching coming into play to learn that responsibility?
Well, as an older brother, that's just the nature of the beast, right? Or the older sibling. That's what you taught. That's what it is. Because you're right in that case. A lot of times, but if you got more than one child, I mean, the older child typically takes on that role. When the oldest child may go to school at that point. So now it's time for that middle child to take care of the young ones. Or you got, well, in certain, especially in the hood, like where I grew, or in the weather, in the trailer park shit. You got little cousins running around. You got people living with you, so you gonna get it one way or the other, typically. And if it's not that, it's the only way. Not the only way. It's people that pretty much have children, have daycares, and they do different things, experience different things. But some people don't have that leisure. I know I didn't. A lot of my friends didn't. But after a while, it's only for a spell. Maybe for high school, you just couldn't go everywhere, but you get to go some places. Just not maybe everything. You may not be able to. It's not that it didn't stop you from playing football. They paying for football, or and your sibling gets older as well, where they can take care of themselves, and so they got to learn responsibility of being at home by themselves. Mama on them on the top of their head too, if they raised right. So when they leave, you still got to be able to lock up the house, cook your own dinner. I ain't about to come. So the child's there by might, like I said, that younger child might be there by herself. Out to college because the oldest one's out to college. They just here fending for themselves at this point. So they gonna learn some sense of responsibility, and it's always on a parent to give that responsibility to each child. They got to have some type of responsibility in the house. Just because I'm there at home don't mean he don't have to clean up his room. He don't have things. He learn how to pay for, go to the store and get the correct change. Like if you parents, You just got more responsibility, not less. I mean, you have more responsibility in some cases, or you get held responsible for certain things because you're the oldest. That don't mean everybody doesn't have responsibility.
But chill. Okay, so I'm playing both sides here.
Roger.
So if the oldest one is always having to take on the leadership role, or take care of someone, what happens if let's say your oldest one
But
was
that's not always
gifted.
the case. I'm
Eh,
sorry. I mean, that's not always the case. I mean, that's in no, that's in some cases. Sometimes you just parents know they're the most responsible child. You know what I'm saying? So that's not all.
okay, so let's say the most responsible child. Okay, let's say the oldest, the most responsible, whatever. I'm just going to throw this particular scenario out there. So let's say that the most responsible child, or the oldest child, the one who always gets, um, all of this responsibility put on them. Let's say they have, they are gifted, and let's say they have the opportunity to study, in another state, or do something where they're leaving home. Do you hold that child back because, well, no, you can't go because we need you here, and therefore they miss out on an opportunity that would benefit them, later in life, because they're having to look after their siblings. Meanwhile, as the siblings are getting older, they may have opportunities that come their way, and they're able to go. But this one, but this other kid, they missed out because mom and dad were like, nope, you if you go, I'm sorry, nope.
Awesome question. And this is one big thing about life for me, where I get kind of peeved at people having resentment towards others in reference to things like this, because it makes no sense to me. Because at surface, you may want to put more value on that opportunity opposed to more value on the sacrifice. Anybody who has a decent parent will teach their kids that that sacrifice was one of the greatest things that ever happened for you to be there. And so that younger child, or whoever that is, the other child, would be like, if you gave up that and it was the situation, man, you're just important to whatever I get. Everybody knows, hey, if I'm in the NBA or whatever, we had to sacrifice because I felt there was a better shot at this. And that one person's sacrifice, I'm sure Serena and Venus Williams, their older sisters, were like, dang, they felt some kind of way. But at the end of the day, if you were a good parent, you know what, we had to sacrifice to do this, and you just as important to that success to them. That's why they have to be successful, because you sacrificing. So it's just as important. And that's just up to us to be uh more well-rounded in our thinking, to understand the nature of the level of, you know the height of what that sacrifice is. You know what I'm saying? And and sometimes that has to happen. Unfortunately, we're not in a situation, so that has to happen, especially when you're poor. Or it ain't necessarily got to be poor, but overall, that's up to their parents to just to teach that and instill that in the child. Like, hey, this is why we're doing this. Whether you agree or not, that's fine. But I'm not about to be mad at my siblings or, parents, because they felt like they was doing the right thing. Now, if they just didn't, I feel like they just didn't care about me, didn't hear me out, just like favored a child. That's different. That if I feel like that's a thing, that they really have favoritism. You know what I'm saying? But if it was a plan, and I feel like we all had to participate part of this plan, like, hey, sometimes life gonna do you, uh, you know, a bad hand. So you just make whatever you can out of it. I'm not about to be mad at the world though. Nuh-uh.
But is that sacrifice? But could that sacrifice that one child, or whomever in that family is making? Yes, family is everything, but at the same time, it's like, what if you knew that growing up, all your child wanted to do was do this one particular thing, and they were good at it. They were really good at it. This is something that this kid really wanted to do. But then there's that word sacrifice that comes up. Whether or not they're pissed off at their family or their siblings or whatever, they still missed out on an opportunity that may not come back around, and they have missed out. They have missed out on their dream because of the sacrifice. Is that still fair?
I mean, we not. That's why I say life ain't necessarily fair. We not. It could be. You right. It could be unfair, in a lot of ways, and there are uh situations to where it gets egregious. But I think that's beyond just being fair. I think that's when children or like parents are ridiculous. There are situations where parents are ridiculous. There are, the Cinderella type stories. You know what I'm saying? The one you got those, but it's just ridiculous. But for the most part, I think 90% of the time, parents have their best child's interest at heart. Depending on that culture, it may be different the way they do things. But here in America, that because I know everybody's from different areas looking, are listening. So here is just for me. If you just have to make sure that you don't never take out or don't feel some kind of way, especially from your immediate family. If you feel like unless it's like a not a love thing, if they're just a horrible person, yeah, because you got those sibling rivalries. That one sibling that always got to impress the parent and throw you under the bus. I mean, now that causes resentment, but not just because I had to sacrifice something because somebody had to do better. And if I feel slighted, typically a parent will pick up on that and they'll adjust, right? Or there's other opportunities that to be had as well. That doesn't necessarily take away from your greatness because one opportunity is gone. There could be several down the line. I know for me that happened. I may not been able to go here, but it was several opportunities for me to go play football. One year I couldn't play a sport or something, I think, but I had several opportunities after that to play a sport. So I did. It just depends on the nature of the situation. But anytime a parent just blatantly takes something away from a child and just tells them no just because, without no legitimate reason, I mean that's just crazy. I mean that's just But there's no pamphlet, there's no instructions, so we all fail at certain things. And it may not be unfair, but life's unfair in general. So we got to adjust, and not have resentment towards people just because our life was unfair.
Okay. Grit, you want to respond to Chill? Because he was initially answering your question.
Yeah. So in our situation, like here in New Zealand, childcare is pretty darn expensive. Um, so obviously, I'm the one with the main job, the main leading job, and my wife. We looked around for work, but we had to find a specific job that suited the times, for our kids. So we found a job that she could work at, that starts a certain time and ends a certain time, so that we make sure that she's here in the mornings getting kids dropped off at school and all of that, and she's at home for when the kids get home from school. So there's always someone at home. Um, so we made sure that we could fit that in, regards, because we can't afford childcare, and so that's one part that we adjusted to. The other one is, if there has been times where both of us had appointments and we had no one to watch the kids, so we would then um, make arrangements, like, let's say, one of our kids' friends, can they have a play date, so that they've been watched, somewhere else. So we've always tried to adjust and make arrangements so that we wouldn't have to sacrifice the one over the other. Um, and yeah, just regards to, like, the one child getting an opportunity, let's say, to go study somewhere or go to a college or something. um, I personally would never hold that child back, on his potential, just because we didn't have a sitter. um, I would make some other some other plan or some other alternative arrangements for the other child that needs to be cared for, or needed something. It's just that's just me. I wouldn't dare hold the one back. Uh, uh, if you had certain potential, or somewhere to grow in, just to look after the other child. Yeah, so that's just my opinion.
Okay. All right. So let me ask this, and I'm going to ask for Grid and Chill and anybody who's in chat, or if you guys want to come up. Um, I'm going to go back to the Jackson Five, and over the years, Joe Jackson, he was just vilified, like, oh, he treated his children like this, and he did this and they didn't have a childhood, whatever. But all of his children have come back and said that, our father was the one who made us famous. He's the one who made us successful. And I have to give it to Joe Jackson. I mean, he did, there's this word, sacrifice coming in. He did sacrifice a lot, for his kids. And in the same, they were not able, they say they're watching the kids across the street, at the park playing ball, and they're in the house singing. They're in the house dancing, as soon as they get home from school, this is what they have to do, and you listen to, Janet and Michael, they both said if it weren't for Joe, they would not have had the level of success that they had. So, do you think that's wrong, that you have a parent who sees talent in your children, and you just push them and you push them and you push them, and they become, you know, successes? No matter what you may think about Michael Jackson, he is still probably one of the greatest performers that ever lived. So was it wrong of their father to push them, because they did lose a part of their childhood? So Grid, I'll go to you first. What do you think? And if anybody in the chat, if you guys want to comment, or okay, so you're saying they sacrificed their childhood. Okay, Grid, so do you think that's wrong, or I mean, what do you
Well,
think?
if I think if the child wanted to pursue that at that age, and their passion was in it, and it's something they wanted to do, then I don't think it's wrong. But if I'm not sure the history on those kids and stuff, but if it was something they didn't want to do, and their parents saw that they had the potential to get, to become what they've become, um, and they pushed the kids, to do it, um, then I think it's wrong. But I think if the child at that age wanted to do it, and it was something they really wanted to do, then I don't think it's wrong, and it's good for the parents to push them and motivate them if it was something that they really wanted to do. But if it was not, and the parents saw, look, they have talent, and they push them because they know, this could be something major, and they can make money and become famous, and we could all live, wealthy lives, then I think it's wrong.
Okay, Michael, chill. I will come back to you, but I do want to. Michael just came on, so I want to give him an opportunity to speak. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, how are you? Uh,
Good.
so I agree with what Grid Talk was saying. I think there's a happy medium, and just to give you like my personal experience. I mean, I played football my whole life, ran track, played baseball. Did a lot of things, but football I ended up playing at a Division I college in football. My girlfriend also played tennis for an SEC school, right? And there was one thing I thought my parents did very well with this. Um, you know, if you start, then we don't quit was the main thing, right? That doesn't mean you have to make a 10-year career out of it, but it does mean if you're going to start the season, you're not going to quit during the season no matter what. The other thing was whatever you do, you have to do it 100%, right? You have to, you don't miss practice. You go every day, no matter what's required of it, and you finish. So there's pushing them through that, but you have so many examples of, like the Ball family with basketball, or the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus, right, with what their dad did. And you guys brought up the Jackson Five and all that, right, where they have a lot of talent and they kind of live through their kids, but it's worked out. But that's such a small minority that's worked. I think that if you go and you look at the athletes that have been successful, it all started from the child being passionate about that sport and not being burnt out on that sport. And I think that when you just push and push and push and push, no matter how talented they are, because I'm sure I know several that were far better than me at football that got burnt out because their parents just lived through, especially in baseball, you see it all the time. And baseball is extremely hard to make it to the top end, no matter how good. There's so many good baseball players. You got to go to their minors, you got to do all this, and they play all year round, nonstop. And they never play any other sport. That's all they focus on. They spend all this money. You know, the dad's yelling at them, you know, when they do something wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I'm one of those people, I'll get on my kid, especially if he's not hustling, right? But they just live through their child, and it takes the fun out of it eventually, and it burns them out. And I think that it's important to know where that happy medium lies, where you push them, you tell them you can't quit, you know, and you need to, because I gave up for football, especially in high school, my entire summer for 4 straight years. In college, I saw my parents one time for Christmas the whole time I was in college because we were usually at a bowl game. The sacrifice is just unbelievable, right? That's certain things that you got to live with, but the reward is also great as well. But you can't just, you know, you need to, as a parent, I think, be able to see when your kid is getting burnt out and be okay with them. You know, okay, maybe you don't play football next season, or maybe we don't play a sport next season, right? You need to be okay with that too.
So, Michael, let me ask this. So you said that sometimes you push your son. Is it your son?
No, so I don't have a kid. I'm just giving you my experiences growing up with me playing sports, and someone who went to, you know, not the NFL would be the highest level, but the second highest level of football. Um, right. And how much time and effort and how my parents treated me. And then my girlfriend as well, who played tennis at Arkansas, and her experience, which is similar to mine. And
But
what I saw from people whose parents were forcing them because they thought they had all this talent and they were good, but they just got so burnt out with it. And it
but
never.
you but the difference there is the fact that you wanted to play these sports. You
Yes.
didn't mind, giving up, Christmas with your family and what have you. So you
Later
didn't
on,
mind.
you know, early on in life, it would have been hard. Like in high school, or, you know, when I'm younger, yeah, it's different. But in college, because the reward was it was such a good reward after with all that hard work, you know. But you know, I enjoyed it because my parents never burnt me out on it. They didn't say, "Oh, you got to do this all year round." I chose to do that. You know, they didn't force me to do anything, and that's where I think it really uh, hurts the kids, because some people have just crazy talent, and the parents know it, but they force it on them so much that they just get tired of it. They don't want to do it.
So okay, Michael, then let me ask this. So for the Williams sisters, for Serena and Venus, do you think that it was wrong what their father did, or
I think he did a
or
great job with them, right? I mean, it worked out. So who am I to say that that he should have done anything different?
okay,
The
all
best in
right,
the world, right? But it could. What I'm saying is that's a small minority, though. Like with I brought the Ball family, right? I don't know if you know anything about them with basketball. They're all
I am very familiar
yeah.
with the Ball family.
So, you know, I think people look at him like he's crazy, but he's really a genius, regardless of whatever you think about him. I mean, he's got I think all 3 of them play in the NBA now. I know 2 of them do for sure, and they're
Yeah,
making
yeah.
millions of dollars. But there's 2 families, and then you name the Jackson 5. I don't think the Mannings were pushed as hard as that. You know, that's another family.
hmm
You don't hear about them being pushed as hard. They just kind of like that game. And you have that, but it's such a small minority, you know, of these success stories where the parent pushed them just so hard their entire life. Uh, and it ends up working out because it's such a small minority where you actually make it that far anyway, let alone being ridden on it your whole life.
Okay. Chill. I'm going to go to you. So you've heard what Grit said. You heard what Michael said. Do you have any comments or?
Well, for me, I feel like that was super important. It's good to have Mike's point of view as well. Uh, and welcome, Mike.
So true.
For me, that's a great point, but I believe the situations where you talk about the Jackson 5, the Venuses and Serenas, I think those are things that they take that into account. I think, especially Joe Jackson, their mom, they would talk about that. Like when Joe goes too far, does you put, even uh, I believe I seen the movie King Richard. He was talking about that's why he held them out of competition. Because I mean, we were assuming that these cases just because they were super successful that they weren't able to have childhoods. They didn't really like say, hey, you know what? You ain't got to play tennis this year because of whatever. Because and then it's about in the movie where it says that his father didn't want certain things because he wanted them to still be kids at the same time. So they showed that part to where he did push them a lot, but at the same time he made sure that they stayed kids, and and they didn't necessarily get too burnt out, and it was up to them. But it's a fine line between pushing your kids not to quit and helping them persevere because they hit a wall or they just hit some hard times. And so it's a fine line. And then when somebody gets burnt out, you got to notice it, and you just got to be okay with them not doing it. You know what I mean? And like Mike said, you just can't be like have resentment towards your child, because I know so many kids that were like that, and that just means that they weren't built for it. They're not doing something they like, right? And you can be good at something and don't like it. I'm
Yeah.
so yeah. And if that's the case, that no matter how good you are, you're just not going to be happy. You know what I mean? You can be the greatest athlete in the world and just not happy, then you got to step away. So, I mean, to do that at an early age, that's what happens often, especially in football or even baseball, like you said, where
So, okay, so let me ask you guys this. So, you're Michael Jordans, your Peyton Mannings, all these athletes who, Kobe's and what have you, who are just like at the top of their game. How much do you think it was them in terms of they pushed themselves? And I'm talking about because they had this talent when they were young. So, how much do you think it was them pushing themselves, or the parent either pushing or supporting them that got them to where they are now?
So, my opinion, I think it's an environment situation. So it's kind of everything you just said, right? The parent needs to push the child. So I'm not saying they don't, right? They just need to realize when, like I said, okay, you started this season, you're not quitting. You're going to every practice, and you're teaching good habits there, right? You're just teaching good stuff for any late outside of sports. But like with Michael Jordan, he had a brother. If you watched the documentary on him, they were extremely competitive, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they're competitive in games like with baseball and basketball. And his dad was competitive like that too. So you have to have that drive. There's some genetic aspect of that, right? Not everyone is as competitive as some other people. Uh, so I think having that support system from his dad, but also that competitiveness with an older brother like Michael Jordan had, and the Mannings too. Eli had two older brothers, but they're all similar. Pretty close in age. Serena and Venus, right? I don't know how far apart they are, but um, they were still together, and so I think having that support system there. And when I say support again, I'm saying like someone to compete with all the time where it keeps you into it. But I think a lot of it is still them because they're passionate. You still got to want to compete in it. You know, you still got to want to go do it because that want and that will to is what's going to allow you to go work hard and maximize that potential, because potential only gets you so far anyways. There's a lot of great athletes that are walking down the sidewalk and never, put a helmet on after high school or dribbled a basketball after high school because they didn't want to work hard. And it's not, maybe they just didn't want to do it, and that's fine. So you still have to have that passion. And that passion, I think, because baseball is the biggest sport where I saw it growing up because I played baseball, and I love baseball way more than the kids. And I only played for 3 months, out of the year, and they were playing for 12 months out of the year. They never got a break at all. Every weekend they're on tournaments, and none of them went and did anything after high school. And I loved every minute of playing baseball, and they couldn't stand it by the end of it. And so, you can drain that drive out of them, And if there's no drive, then there's not going to be any success. That's just, I mean, that's a fact.
Okay. Let me go over to Grit. You've been silent and waiting patiently. Do you want to respond to anything that Michael or Chill said?
Yes, I mean, I just think that you need to, you know, chat to your kids, and if they feel like Michael says burnout, then you got to respect that and don't push it upon them. If they feel they want to carry on and they're doing well, then motivate them and try and get them to do the best they can do. Support them, but I feel if they, if they've had enough, then you need to respect them and say, and let them make their choice.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my original question. Okay, so you have this Kobe in your house. You have this Michael Jordan. You have this phenomenal, person who can sing. Who can play the piano. You just have this person in your house who is so talented, but they're the oldest, or the most responsible, and they have siblings, and mom has to work or dad has to work, whatever. Do you hold that child, that extremely talented child, back because he has to, here's this word again, sacrifice to take care of his siblings?
In my opinion, I think it's up to you as the parent, if you see that, to do whatever it takes to give your child the ability. And I know it's hard, and like I said, I don't have a child, but I know what my parents sacrificed for me, and I know what my girlfriend's parents sacrificed for her. And I would hope that with my job, I'll be lucky enough to do it because I kind of make my own schedule. But you got to try and do whatever it takes to allow any of your children to pursue certain things that either they're good at or want to do. I just feel like that's kind of your responsibility as a parent as well.
Okay, Chill.
Yeah, I mean that happens all the time. I don't know if you ever hear stories about the baby. A lot of times the baby boy or baby girl is the one that makes it to the league because they watch all the other older ones' mistakes or sacrifices. And so they feel indebted, to the family to have to make it a lot of times. Whether you the younger cousin, whoever you grew up with, like the Marbury, like or certain. It's so many stories of them. Isaiah Thomas, he'll tell you like, man, I wasn't even the best basketball player in my household. My older brother was cold. He was the best. Period. I may not be able to beat him to this day. So that happens all the time. But there's when they interview his brother, no, that's my baby brother. I love him. He did it for his family. And da 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 da. So my point is that if it's whether it's fair, I'm more concentrated on the resentment. It ain't got to be fair. And they know that a lot of times, you know, that don't necessarily stop us either. I mean, we may miss on some opportunities, but with something like sports or something like that, it's gonna be a point to where if you that good, your parents figure out a way. You know what I mean? To get you, you might have lost on some opportunities, but if you're that good, a coach is gonna say, like, "Hey, you know what? Coach is gonna step in. Somebody's gonna step in because this happened so many times with
I
around me.
agree.
You
Yeah.
know, Troy Smith. I don't know. He's a Heisman.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
Ohio
I
State.
I know him directly. He was my coach. We played for high school. He went and got him and convinced his mom just so he can live with him. And he helped mom out. You know what I'm saying? So it's people that'll step in that'll help. When you see talent like that, people are willing to help and change the situation. So it's just not. I mean, typically I don't think that would happen. Is what I'm saying.
okay,
Carlos
but
Hyde is another
okay,
one.
okay, hold on, Mike. So Chill. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but why does it have to get to be a level where you have someone who is super talented in order for your family or your parents to find a way for it to happen? Why can't you find a way for something to happen for someone who likes to draw, or who, I mean, it's not something that may bring in millions of dollars or something, but again, it's something that this person really wants to do, really likes to do, and they're missing out.
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying is that typically, if you're good at something or want to do that bad, they typically find a way, and there's levels. You can't really separate it as apples and oranges, because when you can make millions of dollars, that's life changing for everybody. They're not just typically doing it for just themselves. When a person goes out, they're doing it for way more than just themselves, and that's why they make it to the league, because that's the drive they have. Because I'm doing it for more than just myself. I'm doing it for my brother who sacrificed. I'm doing it for my mom. So to say that's kind of like apples and oranges. Like, I do know what you're saying though. Like, well, if it's just something that I want to do, I want to enjoy it. Well, it's levels to. Unfortunately, that's life is unfair. When you come out the womb, levels to it. If you just want to be in drawing class, and your brother and I got to pay for daycare, which is $500 a month. I'm not like Grid. Like, he's blessed to have him and her. It's just a him or her in this situation. Most situations are like that, I believe. So I can't afford that. We can't afford that. You know what I mean? We can That sacrifice ain't gonna pay off in the end. You know.
All right, wait, hold on. Before anyone else goes on, because I want to give everybody an opportunity to talk. Bai, you have been waiting patiently. What do you want to add? And then Michael, I will come back to you.
Hi guys. I've been listening the whole time. Just my football team was playing, so I was watching that while listening to you guys.
Hey,
So no, and not answer to your question. I mean, I could rant and rave like I have before on the show about parenting and the psychological effect that it has on kids. If there's like siblings and there's favoritism and all that stuff, and then I could also go down the route of like, the just the way that the system is set up to kind of both parents have to work, and that would take a lot of time away from the nurturing of children and all that stuff. So I mean, to cut a long story short and to save all that, I would say yes, you have to. If you have a child that has a gift and a talent, why wouldn't you support them? But ultimately, there are um, issues that stand in the way, finance. I'm thinking along the lines of hobbies. Like when I was young, I tried everything. Like when Wimbledon was on, which is the tennis tournament over here in the UK, it was like we would all play tennis for 2 weeks, and then it was like, oh, let's take up football. Let's do, and eventually it was golf for me. I picked up golf, and my grandparents bought me a set of golf clubs, and I stuck at it. I went over pretty much every day of the summer, and I ended up being a pretty good golfer. And there are going to be ways around it, and there are going to be obstacles that will be in your way. But if you're a good parent, you will support your child if they are, But I liked what Will said. It was just a small point, but things like if the parent has to go to work and the older sibling has to look after the younger sibling, it's just the hand of cards that you've been dealt, and there are it does suck for some people, and maybe they'll just have to be like late bloomers, or put it to the side and pick it up later on. But I think each case is different, and it's just life and the way it's all set up.
okay, Michael.
Yeah. So you brought up a good point. Solid. About the drawing thing, right? Here's where I see it. I want to take part of what Chill Will said about the payoff. There's a lot of things. What if there's a talent, like you said, like they're musically talented, right? And it may be something I don't understand because I suck at playing instruments. But if it's something that may be able to get them a scholarship to a college, a good university, whether it's drawing, it doesn't matter what. If it's something that they like to do and they're very good at it and they have a real chance of it doesn't have to be making millions of dollars. It could just be, oh, you're gonna get a degree for free and leverage that talent. Then you know you need to sit down with the child and say, hey, you like doing this? Yeah, okay, so are we going to be committed, and if you're going to buy into this, then I'm going to support it. I'm going to find a way to allow you to pursue that, because I know that it could ultimately benefit you. I use sports because that's what I can relate to. But if it's a talent that can open doors for that child later on in life, then why wouldn't you, as a parent, want to try? I'm not saying you're going to be able to always. I know there's so many different circumstances, But ideally, why wouldn't you try and do whatever it took to allow that child to maximize that talent and get those doors open? So
okay, so Michael, okay, so what if you are in a situation like Chill brought up, that is only mom has to work two jobs, whatever. Someone has to stay home to take care of a little brother or little sister. Someone, you're not going to be able to go to those art classes. You're not going to be able to go to football, whatever. What do you do?
So I'm kind of probably in the same boat as what Chill Will is, especially being around football. You see this a lot. Carlos Hyde, right? He plays running back in the NFL, played at Ohio State after Troy Smith did, but he played on my high school team. But there's several, I could probably name 10 that played high school with me in general that went and they live with other families. There were so many people that were willing to reach out and help.
But you're living with other families, but you're still leaving, but you're moving to another family, but who's going to take care of little brother and little sister?
It wasn't so much you're living with another family. It's just like another source of help, right? Okay. There's so many, like in Pop Warner, when I was playing Pop Warner, my dad coached one year, we were giving 4 or 5 kids a ride every day because their parents couldn't take them to practice, right? There's so many, usually, especially with a team sport, there can be so many sources of help and assistance if you just ask, and I know sometimes it's hard, but like even something so simple as, hey, you mind giving my son a ride to practice today? You see that football is the biggest thing, right? Because you have people from all walks of life coming and playing football more so than baseball or, other sports. And that's where you really see it. And it kind of grows as you get older too, where that assistance with certain kids that are really bought in, that just that community usually is willing to help out. So it's not like, oh, you have to go live with them full time, but you do see where, hey, yeah, I can give him a ride to school or a ride to practice, or I can take him home, or he can stay the night at my house to make sure that we get him to practice. There are certain sacrifices that do need to be made. And that's just my experience, right? I think anyone who has played football in the United States, at least for, through into high school and then in college for sure, like, would have had that same experience. And there's probably, what I've come to realize is there are people that are actually willing to help you with a lot of things in life. You just got to be willing to ask. And sometimes it's hard to ask, and not everyone is open to do that. But there are a lot of resources out there. It's just, are you willing to pursue it and maybe sacrifice to take advantage of those resources?
All right. Grit, you want to respond to anything that Bahram said, or Chill or Michael?
I agree with Michael 100%. There's some people, like some folks, will have to work 2 jobs, and you just need to be able to put your pride in your pocket and ask for help. There's always a means and a way of getting around an obstacle. There's always a way. You just got to find it and try and do the best for your child. And I don't believe sacrificing the older so that for the younger. It's you need to give every opportunity to all of your kids, or the best that you can do. So yeah, find a way. There's always a way around anything. That's just what I feel.
Okay, Chill. Chill, you there? Okay, I will come back to you. He's Ba. So you want to respond to anything that Michael or Grit just said?
No, I agree with everything that was said. Yeah.
So, Ba, let me ask you. You said you have a younger sister, right?
Yeah.
Is it just the 2 of you?
Yeah.
So there's what, like I'm trying to remember when she told
Four
4 years.
year
Okay.
younger.
So was there ever a time when your parents said, take your younger sister with you?
Not that, I mean, I'm sure there was, but it was never an issue because obviously, I don't know if there's any difference in the fact that she's a girl and I'm a boy, and maybe I was going to play football or golf or some sports, and she wanted to stay at home or play with her own friends. So it never was an issue for me that I know of.
Okay. All right. So let me go to Michael. Let me ask you the same question. Are you an only child, or do you have other brothers and sisters?
I have two younger brothers, and they all played sports.
So was it ever a time when your parents ever said, take your brothers with you if you wanted to go hang out with your friends or something? Or
Yeah, it depends what we were doing. When I was younger, more so. When I got into high school, because I'm the oldest, and I started driving, it wasn't so much. But when I was younger, yeah, when we were playing with kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that, yeah, they'd, hey, take him with you. It, but they didn't have to go. It's still up to my brother if he wanted to come. Like my middle brother and I are 2 years apart, and then my youngest brother, he's 7 years younger than me. And
okay.
so there's a gap there in age, but it really all depended, on the circumstance. I mean, but when I started driving and got into high school, they weren't too worried about that. They knew I was out doing things that my brother at that time, they're 16, 17 years old, was a lot different than a 14-year-old. So
Okay. All right. Jill, you are back. So I don't know if you heard what Grit said or what Michael said. You want to comment on any of that?
Oh yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry. I mean, I think the main sentiment is obviously as parents we all have to have discretion, but most times I really believe when that's the case of you kind of being kind of stifled by your younger sibling, it's more likely it's a reason, it's a valid reason, because unless it's just something going on in your family where you just got a sick old parent that just wants to do harm, and like I said, you in a Cinderella situation. Most parents are intelligent enough to want, or just like they love their kid enough to knowing that they want them to be happy. But sometimes it just, you just can't. I mean, we can't risk it, And like I said, the payoff is whether it's a free Scott, whatever the payoff is, it have to be worth the sacrificing. And also there are people there that are willing to help, and there are typically ways to get things done if you're a parent. Sometimes you can't see through the weeds though. So and that's another thing. Like you just some parents aren't the smartest, so they're doing the best they can, best way they know how. So uh my main thing is like I'm never gonna be. I just it doesn't bother to be resentful or feel like life isn't fair because it just don't do you no good. You just gotta move. You gotta move on.
All right. Well, this is my last question. I'm going to go around the room. It may seem like a silly question, but I am going to ask it. Being a mom who has taken her child, my only child, to several birthday parties, I'm going to throw it out here. Do you feel that if one child was invited to a birthday party, that you automatically send the other child with them? I'm going to start with Chill.
Okay, I wasn't ready for you to come right back to me, but it depends on the situation. If it's a grown if I'm 5 years apart, like my brother, no. If we 2 years apart, why not? I mean, or if they get to have their own friends though, so it depends on the situation. If they may be if it's just hey, I mean it depends. It depends, but overall, it's nothing wrong with wanting to have your sibling involved. Like it's just like I don't know why you want to be
No,
separate from
no,
your
no.
sibling.
I'm asking this for a reason. I just want to get everyone's. I want to get everyone's. I want to get everyone's response before I
Yeah,
say
you
say
ain't about
this
to leave
whatever.
me in the house with this little. A lot of times, You might leave me. You gonna take your brother with you? Yeah, you can go. You take your brother with you. Oh well, let's go then. So a lot of times parents need breaks too. So
Oh,
it depends. But for the most part, ain't nothing wrong with it. I mean, maybe all the time, but yeah, you're
all
not
right.
about to leave your brother out.
All right. Grit, do you one kid is invited to a birthday party, do you send the other one along?
Um, well, in my case, like I've got a son and daughter, and they're 5 years apart. I can't see my son going to a small girls' kiddie party. I don't think he'd want to, but I don't see anything wrong with it. If he wants to go along with, then he can go. If he doesn't, then he stays at home. That's purely his choice, I suppose.
Okay. Michael?
Yeah, I think it's situational, right? You have like in grid situation, uh, you know, now if it's like a year apart, then I'm sure he wouldn't mind going to the girls' party. But it's situational. It really is. Are they like me and my brother that's 2 years apart? If it was someone we always hung out with together, like a mutual friend, yeah. If it was just someone I knew that didn't even know my brother, it really all depends. And I think as you get older, it sorry, the car's driving by, but I think as you get older too, it becomes more and more where you wouldn't necessarily tag along unless that person was invited. I don't know. I didn't really go to a lot of birthdays or
Okay.
it's situational.
All right, Bob?
I would say no because it's an invite unless your name's on that card. You can't. I would feel that's very cheeky, because there might be like only enough cake to go around, or you know what I mean. I just feel that would be so rude to just assume that your other sibling, your other child can go because not on your behalf, but the people that are throwing the party. So, but then again, like see when they're young, like 1 years of age or even two, I think that when invites are sent out, they obviously know that there is another child, and they can't be left at home, and the mother might have to stay at the party as well. So, I mean, like Michael said, it's situational, but an invite's an invite. If your name's not on it, you're not you're not allowed to go.
All right. No, I mean, and I asked that. The reason, well, I asked that for two reasons. Growing up, it was just my sister and I. My sister was 2.5 years apart, and or she's 2.5 years older than me, and we grew up in a household where you have your friends, your sister has her friends. If she wants to invite you, you can go. If your name is not on that invite, you cannot go. And being a mom who would have other kids over my house, because my son was inviting them over, whatever, people would send their kids. And like Chill said, sometimes parents need breaks too. Okay, but you need a break, but does that mean you have to send your kids to my house? I don't want to babysit your kids. So at what point, does the child or the brother or sister not come? At what point, you know, you may say take your child, to the store if you're going to go to the store, or you're going to the park, whatever. But sending another child or your whole clan to someone else's house, don't you think that's a little bit pushy? Chill? Chill? Okay, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, when you I agree with you. I don't.
You are breaking up. You are breaking up, Michael.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up. Now
Hold on.
now I can.
Can you hear me? Good.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, yeah. So I agree with you. I don't think when I was saying situational and another.
And you're breaking up again. You're breaking up. Okay, let me go on to someone else, and then I will come back to you. I don't know if you're just in a bad area. Grit, what do you think?
Sorry, why don't you just give me that question again quickly?
When you sending your child, telling your son to take your daughter to the park or to the store is one thing, but when you're invited over someone's house and you're sending your children to someone else's house, don't you think that's being a little pushy if only one child name is on the invite?
In my case, every invite that one of my kids have got, they've always known that we have two kids, and so they've always both been invited. I don't know. I've never been in that situation where they've only said the one child can go and not the other. If it were the case, I would say, I would ask the parent of where the party is, if is it okay if the other one can come along with? If not, then just the one child will go. But I've never had that situation where they've invited just the one. They've always known us to have two kids.
Okay. And Ba, you say whoever name is on the invite, then that's it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like they're not babysitters, and I mean, there's all different other kinds of reasons. Like, even what about if the kid's birthday doesn't get on with the other sibling? They only get on with one of them. So I think it's very cheeky to just assume that you can throw the other one along with the other sibling and say, "Here you go." Yeah.
Very good point. Very good point. Well, that's all I've got. So I'm going to go around the room, and everyone can give their last thoughts. And Mike, I'll start with you. And do you prefer to be called Mike or Michael, or it doesn't matter?
It does not matter. Can you hear me all right now?
Yes. Okay.
Awesome.
So any last thoughts that you want to put in?
So what I was going to say is, I agree, with that concept, like what Barham you said and you said, right? Don't expect anyone to take on a responsibility that they weren't wanting to take on. If you're just dropping your kids off at a birthday party and they only expected one person, then that's not right. Because now they're responsible to watch after those kids, and they didn't want to take on that responsibility. So, that's basically what I was going to say before. So I guess maybe you changed my mindset on the whole situational thing. But because I guess I was good.
And I was going to say, Michael, and plus, there may not be enough goodie bags to go around. There just may be goodie bags for the people who are invited.
Yeah, well, and when I was thinking of someone tagging along, I was thinking of, like, the parties with, like, a young child and, the parent stays there the whole time and is just has the other child with them, so they're still able, okay, there's not enough, they can, maybe get some food for them or whatever, right? Like, that's kind of what I was getting at.
Okay, but Michael, but even if the parent does stay, the fact still stands is Joe was on the invite, not Joan. So again,
well, don't expect them to get a piece
just
of
because
anything.
the parent is. I mean, I'm just saying, but why would you bring them? I mean, it's like they were not invited. So I mean, and I can see if you ask someone, if you say, is it okay if I bring my daughter, but just to show up, whatever, I just think that's a little pushy, especially when you're coming to somebody else's house.
I agree with you. No, I agree. Right. First of all, yeah, getting approval is always, I mean, that's that'd be the right thing to do. Not everyone would do that, right? So I wholeheartedly agree with you. I'm just not explaining myself properly, I guess, but no, you're right. And like I said, just, basically don't expect someone to, just don't put your responsibility on someone else that was only willing to take on watching one child, not 2 or 3 or 4, let alone even having to cut them a piece of whatever everyone's getting at the party. But watching a child can be stressful. I mean, I've watched kids before and stuff. You got to be willing to take that on, right? You don't want people to just come over and drop them on you and, So yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Okay. I will go to Grid. Do you have any last words?
Just look after your own damn kids.
That's what I say. That's what I say. Chill. Are you there? You have any last words? You have any last words? Are you there? Or did you get a phone call? Okay, I see your mic coming on and off. Hold on, he wants to come back in. So
Yeah, my bad. I just was.
okay. So, do you have any last words for us?
That last question you asked me, I don't know. What was the last question you had asked me?
I don't even remember, Chill, because you have not been. I don't remember.
So, but no, for the most part,
basically, do you send your other child and send your other uninvited child to someone else's house and make them become a babysitter because
oh yeah, no, that we talked about that one.
you need a break.
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as sitting let them be, yeah. Because if I gotta always be, yeah, that's easy. That happens. You gonna watch your little brother and sister, so I can go out at night. Oh yeah, ain't doing nothing. But typically, you gotta let your kids have fun as well by themselves and with their own friends. That is a thing. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily gonna always invite them to somebody's party because it may be like a list, or it might be like plates involved, certain amount of plates involved. They might have certain friends in their classrooms. Yeah, of course you let them go, and do their thing. But I think it's pretty much a balancing act between parents that are decent parents. Um, and if you're just a dead or bad parent or bad situation, typically a lot of times you may have that, even if you get overworked as a child, like you feel like Jacksons were overworked. It may be sorry, you feel sorry for them because they had no childhood, but they're great. They're good now, So it ain't about how you start. Sometimes it's about how you finish, right? So yeah.
Okay. All right, Bob, you have the last word on this one. So
No,
yes,
I'm
yeah.
good.
You are good. You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, Michael.
Yeah. Real quick, I just wanted to see what your opinion was on this. We spent this whole time talking about sacrificing and all that. Do you think it ever falls back on the parent? And I know obviously accidents happen and stuff like that, but let's say you have a child and you're struggling to make those sacrifices for that one child. Do you think it's responsible for them to have another 2 or 3 children, and then you kind of get yourself in that predicament as it is?
I think that's a hard question to answer because I think that there are people who have more than one child or more than two who either did not expect to be in a situation that they're in. So you can say, well, you shouldn't have children. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, Michael. I mean, that's a hard question. For me, growing up, I grew up in a 2-parent household. Up until my father passed away in 2018, my parents had been married for 60 years. My sister and I, we had a very nice childhood. We didn't want for anything. We had to work for things, but we had responsibilities. But I can't judge whether or not should you stop having kids? Should you? I mean, there are some people who have children to play on the system, but there are some people who have children because this is their family, and they didn't expect to be in the situation that they're in. And even if they are in a situation, they work very, very hard to do for their children. So that's a hard question.
Yeah, no, I don't have an opinion one way or the other on it, right? But when we were talking about this, it came to my mind. And I know there's so many different circumstances, especially revolving around that, right? Like people lose jobs, people weren't, maybe they were in a good situation to do that, and now they can, and things change, especially as, in the span of 18 years there. It's just something I was just curious to see what you thought about.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you this before I cut off. So what do you think? I mean, do you think that, I mean, okay, so if you're in a situation where, let's say you had a good job, everything was going well, and then COVID happened. Okay, so people are getting laid off or whatever, they're losing their jobs, whatever, and they're not, now this money that they were getting before is not coming in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
So, again, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a hard question, right? You can easily say, well, the responsible thing to do would be maybe hold off. But like I'm 29. I think I've held off almost too long. I know I've been dating the same person for a long time. COVID is probably the reason why we haven't gotten married yet, because she's Australian. She's back there right now, and I get it. Again, it is tough. I'd like to say, if you lose your job and you hadn't had a kid yet, maybe that's not the best time to have a kid, depending on what the circumstances were. But I don't know. It is a hard question. It is just something I was curious about. I will say this. So I think part of the reason why I've held off as long as I am is because I wanted to be financially stable in life, where I kind of had a head start before I started a family, because I do understand that there are sacrifices that are going to have to be made, financially, time wise, whatever, and I'm lucky enough to be in a profession where I kind of control my schedule. But not everyone has that luxury. So I see it from both sides, but it's a complicated question. It is.
Okay, you gave me a topic for another show, but but I'm going to ask: does anybody want to comment on what Michael just said? Anybody? Grit, chill. Any of you want to comment? Ba?
Well,
Well,
was it about like holding off on having children?
I
I
mean,
didn't
holding
quite
off on
catch the
having
original.
children, or Michael, you wanted to
Yeah.
give them the question?
Oh, hey, sorry, the dogs. Yeah, basically just saying, does the parent bear any responsibility? What I asked exactly was, if you have a child and you're struggling to make these sacrifices already, is it fair to go ahead and have another child and even another one after that when you're already having trouble meeting certain obligations with the first child?
Yeah. That's a tough one, because one part of me wants to say, well, there is welfare, there is help from government, and I was going to say quite rightly so. When we pay taxes and we pay into the system, we deserve to get a little bit back. But at the same time, when you're struggling, it's not really a wise decision to take on more, another human being and all that comes with it. But I think the everlasting feeling for me would be, look, do I want to have one kid or two or more, and would I regret not going ahead with it if I didn't or did? You know what I mean? So I think that would be the final decision for me. If I wanted a kid and I didn't have one right now, I would just go ahead and do it. And I know it, suffer the consequences later. Yeah, humans always find a way to make things work, or we have done up until this point. So I would say, yeah, just go for it. That's it's maybe not the best advice, but for some people, but a lot of people will make it work.
Grit?
Yeah, I agree with Boram. I think if you're struggling with your first two kids, the responsible thing would be is to not have another one. Yeah, I don't think it would be wise to have another child just because you can. My situation, like when I was in South Africa, I could definitely not afford another child. But here in New Zealand, I could easily have another child and still provide for that child equally as much as I am currently for my first two kids. But I mean, I think if you're struggling, then don't do it.
Okay, Greg, can I ask, when you say that you would not be able to afford, is it because of the job that you had, or is it because South Africa and the economy is different from where you are now in New Zealand?
Yeah, so the economy would just not allow it. The income, the expenses, the support, from the government, you hardly get any of that. But there's a lot more opportunities, and how can I say it? Not privileges, but like support here in New Zealand that you get than what you do get in South Africa. So, uh, and I mean, obviously the financial is a bit better here than it was in South Africa. So that's the only reason I could definitely afford another child.
Okay. Okay, Chill, you there?
Yeah,
Chill.
I am
Okay.
here.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm definitely you can't judge. You want to have at least a decent situation when you have children, right? But some people they want to have kids. It's because of love. You have kids out of love, and no matter what's the situation, you love a person, you want to have a child, and it's gonna happen. So you just got to deal with whatever comes with it. Plus, on top of that, I mean, when you ever be able to be ready for a child, and when is the perfect time to have a child? Is it when you financially stable? Is it when you like how much do you really need to raise a child properly? You may want some certain things for your child, but do they need it in life really? So um, love is typically what you would say you need for a child. Love and a roof over their head at the very least. Safety, you know what I mean? And if you're not in that, and that doesn't take a whole lot to be in those type of circumstances, especially with public assistance. So, um, I mean, I would have at it, for the most part. Just not. I mean, you want to make sure you're doing it kind of responsibly. To think like you got a plan to take care of them eventually. But a lot of times, people forget that it may be hard for a couple of years, but kids be able to help you out, and a lot of times, like they can help you in some instances, and it's a family, and you start operating as a family. Things become easier when they get older, and child can help the younger child with homework and or you ain't got to do all the laundry by yourself, because you just can't have the kids running around just doing nothing. You got to raise your children and to do different aspects of life. Things get easier, and when they get older, it's even better because I mean, you got certain worries, but you just got to have your kids if you feel like and I was what's the other option, especially if you're getting pregnant. I wouldn't say abort them. So
You know,
Okay.
I can't believe I asked this question. This just shows how modern we are now, because what not even a half a century ago, uh, people were having kids because they were in such a bind. Going back to what Chill Will said and them helping out, how many farmers in the Midwest had a lot of kids because they needed people to help out on the farm?
And that's what they did.
Yeah. I mean, and it just shows how things have evolved, right? I mean, I'm sitting here asking a question about responsibility, and we'd all like to be responsible and give the kid the best life, but he brought up the love thing, right? Who am I to tell someone not to have a couple not to have a child? It's one thing if you're having like 4, 5, 6 and you're barely making rent, but I agree with what Chill said, but it does show you, put things into perspective when you think back that not that long ago, people were actually having kids because of that. They were in that situation to help out around the house.
Okay, Grit, you had a quick story that you wanted to tell?
Yeah, just a quick one. So once we had our second child, I actually chatted to a mom in where my wife was, and she had, I think she was on her, she gave birth to a sixth child in the hospital there, and she was telling us that she'll keep having kids because she gets a government grant for each child. So she was just having kids to basically to get money out of it.
Well, unfortunately, I think that happens all over. I mean, and that's the sad part. Are you having the child because you truly, want to have children, or are you having children because you're trying to play the system? But I don't know. So I'm not going to go around the room again. I'm just going to say, does anybody have anything else they want to say? Anything? Hello? All right. Thank you, Grid. Thank you. I'm sorry, Grid. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm gonna say that's it for me.
Okay. Okay. Grid, Michael, Ba, and Chill, thank you so much. And for everyone, Juju, Frankie, thank you so much for listening. Tomorrow is Thursday, so it is my fun show. And I didn't have a show yesterday, but that yesterday's show is actually going to go to Friday. I never do Friday show, but yesterday's show will be on Friday. But tomorrow it will be my fun show. I'm going to talk about your partner's cell phone. Do you have access to it? So on that note, you guys, speak your truth, go where the wind takes you, and thank you so much for tuning in. My show does not work without you, and I thank you guys very, very much. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. And Michael, I think this was your first time on my panel. Thank you so much. And Bahram, I guess I was second to your football game, but okay. Okay, that's okay.
I was listening.
No,
Listening while watching.
That's all right. You know, now I'm going to have to go and talk to someone. Because you just made me feel so bad.
Sorry. We'll have to sign Michael up for friendly differences, by the way.
Yes, we are. He has some good points. Good points. And Juju, thank you. You were on it today with the admin, so thank you. Thank you. Betty Deb, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And Chill, as always, thank you. You always have something to say. Oh boy, we will be reaching out to you. So, Bahram, could you please put in our email for friendly differences so Michael can reach out to us? Is it friendly differences at Gmail, right? Okay, so is Michael still on? I don't know if he is or not. If you're on, Michael, that's where we want you to see us. Okay, y'all, that's it. I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.